بس رسالتي أنا وزدي للشباب في جنوب السودان كأقول أنينا خلينا نعرف أنينا ناس منو، أنينا جاي من وين وماشيين وين وقاعدين وين، هل عندنا نهاية ولا ما عندنا نهاية، هل عندنا بداية ولا ما عندنا بداية. لازم خلينا نشوف الدولة ده زوجون بتاعنا، مهما كان دولة ده تاني ما بيكون لزول تاني، الدولة بتاعتنا بالكويس أنينا يا بنعمله، بالكاب أنينا يا بنعمله. أما الرسالة بتاعي بمشي للقادة بتاعتنا بتاعت الدولة أو أي زول مواطن أصيل من أمه وأبوه من جنوب السودان ده، لربنا فتح لك باب بتاع مال أعطى قروش بدل أنت تشتري لك أسلحة، وعشان ما تعبيبوا شباب عشان يعملوا نزاع موضوع بتاع السلطة، اللي ده قروشك ده وظفوا، شوف لك شركات، شوف لك مصانع أو عامل معاهد بتاع تدريب كويس بتاع تأهيل بتاع شباب. أنت بتلاقي نفسك أنت بيكون عندك قروش، أنت بيكون عندك كفاءة، أنت قاعد بيكون عندك مساهمة دور فعال أكبر من الحكومة كويس في الدولة. طبعا باقي الدول الثانية بتوقف على رجال الأعمال بتاعت الدولة. ده الرسالة بمشي لرجال الأعمال وأي زول ربنا أداه قروش.
Sounds of the Week on iRadio. Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, a happy Merry Christmas. This is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. Police in Juba have arrested more than 100 suspects, including 16 members of the organized forces during the Christmas period for alleged disorderly conduct aimed at disrupting public celebrations. The Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Juba, Cardinal Stephen Ameyu Martin Muller, has called on South Sudanese to pray for peace in 2026 and to break the cycle of violence that crippled the country in 2025. And the United States Ambassador to South Sudan, Michael J. Hadler, has called on South Sudanese to make 2026 a year of peace, dialogue and reconciliation. Tune in for these stories and more coming to you in the news bulletin with me, Wol Mapal, and now the news in detail. Police in Juba have arrested more than 100 suspects, including 16 members of the organized forces during the Christmas period for alleged disorderly conduct aimed at disrupting public celebrations. Major General James Madut Ngor, the head of Juba Operational Sectors and Director of ICT, told SSBC that the suspects include 16 members of the organized forces, 3 minors and 1 girl. Speaking yesterday, General Madut said the arrest followed a joint security operation carried out on Christmas Eve to curb criminal activities in Juba City. According to police, the suspects were found in possession of illegal drugs and dangerous weapons, including machetes. The items were allegedly used to terrorize communities and disturb Christmas celebrations. General Madut said investigations are ongoing to ensure all those involved are brought to justice.
Now, who لبس the activities بتاع المجرمين دين كلهم مسكناهم وبما في 16 عسكري مسكناهم بالليل عملوا السكرات والمرور هم الآن في ساحة بتاع ICT عملنا سكرينينج لقينا 3 اندريج وواحد بيت هم الآن نعمل الإجراءات بتاعهم والإجراءات دي على حسب التوجيهات.
He added that the 3 underage suspects and 1 girl have been placed under care and are ongoing investigation. The Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Juba, Cardinal Stephen Ameyu Martin Muller, has called on South Sudanese to pray for peace in 2026 and to break the cycle of violence that crippled the country in 2025. Cardinal Ameyu made the appeal during a Christmas Mass at St. Teresa Cathedral in Juba yesterday. In his sermon, the cleric urged believers from different religions to pray for peace and reconciliation in the coming year while reflecting on the challenges the country faced in 2025.
In all of us here, Catholics, Presbyterian, Episcopalians, the Muslims, the Jews, if all of us kneel in front of God to ask Him for peace and reconciliation, I seek God to respond to all of us. It is not the effort of the Archbishop or the Cardinal, no. It is all our effort. But our Father listens to each and every one of us when we need that peace or that reconciliation in our families or in our solution. Let us pray for one another that the year 2026 may be very and the year where we have to look for peace and get reconciled and get forgiven so that we can live as one another. Where have we gone so far? What have we done? We must speak about this.
The Cardinal also appealed to the country's leaders to break away from all ways of thinking and choose to do good for the nation, stressing that meaningful peace requires sacrifice.
Nothing can come to us out of just the truth. We must sacrifice. Go and teach people how to sacrifice. It is only by sacrifice that people will realize that he or she has a potential to give to this reconciliation, to this peace. And so I always call you present here a very, very happy Christmas and a very new year. May God bless you and take you all your places in peace. And we will pray and sing next Sunday together. And God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
The Christmas service was attended by President Salva Kiir, senior government officials, members of the diplomatic community, and faithful worshippers. The United States Ambassador to South Sudan, Michael J. Hadler, has called on South Sudanese to make 2026 a year of peace, dialogue, and reconciliation. Speaking during a Christmas service at St. Teresa Cathedral Church in Juba yesterday, Ambassador Hadler said his hope for South Sudan in the coming year is centered on ending violence and strengthening unity among the people. The U.S. envoy stressed that stability is critical, saying peace remains the foundation for all other forms of development and progress.
My wish for South Sudan in 2026 is that the South Sudanese people have peace. May the coming year be a year of peace, a year of dialogue, a year of reconciliation. My one wish for the South Sudanese people is that next year be a year of peace.
Ambassador Hadler also reflected on the long-standing relationship between the United States and the people of South Sudan, noting that American engagement began many years before the country gained independence in 2011. However, he emphasized that peace remains the central focus of U.S. support to South Sudan.
Well, our relationship with South Sudanese people is decades old. It began long before this country's independence. And our support for the South Sudanese people continues, but our priority is the South Sudanese people have peace.
His remarks come amid growing calls for religious leaders, civil society groups, and the international community for renewed dialogue and reconciliation as the country continues to face insecurity, economic hardship, and fragile political transition. The Christmas service at St. Teresa Cathedral was attended by President Salva Kiir, senior government officials, clergy worshippers, and diplomats. Elsewhere, civil society activist Edmond Yakani has appealed to commanders of the South Sudan People's Defense Forces, SSPDF, and the SPLA-IO and the White Army in Jonglei State to immediately declare ceasefire following renewed fighting in Yarol County. In a Christmas message, Yakani, who is also the executive director of the Community Empowerment for Progress organization, raised concern over reported clashes in Wad, the headquarters of Yarol County, between the SSPDF and forces allied to the SPLA-IO and the White Army. Yakani said Wad town was reportedly captured by SPLA-IO and White Army forces, prompting the SSPDF to respond with airstrikes on Monday morning. He also claimed there were reports of torture in the area. He described the developments as deeply troubling, especially at a time when Christians across the country are celebrating Christmas in peace and joy. Ekani warned that the renewed fighting could escalate further as the dry season approaches, placing civilians at greater risk and amid declining global humanitarian support. He described the use of military force to resolve political disputes as painful, disastrous, and dangerous.
And we are getting reports of torture happening in what? I'm appealing to the failed commanders of the SSPDF, of SPLI, of White Army, that the use of military solution to political crisis is painful, is disastrous, is dangerous. Now we see what happened to Wat Town, and now we see the pain some of our population are paying in Wat because of the confrontation. And that's why we're appealing to our leaders that moment has come as across the globe, and South Sudanese in their various capacity are demanding the use of dialogue for resolving differences.
Yakani also cautioned that continued fighting could worsen the humanitarian situation in South Sudan, particularly with the presence of a large number of Sudanese refugees who have fled conflict in neighboring Sudan. He urged leaders of the warring parties to value the lives of civilians and soldiers, saying violence benefits no one. Yakani called on all sides to immediately cease hostilities and return to dialogue to resolve their differences, describing the situation in Wat as disturbing and unacceptable during the festive season. This is iRadio News. Sudanese refugees living in Malakal town, Upper Nile State, are appealing to the warring parties in Sudan to make peace so they can return safely to their homes. The refugees, speaking to iRadio at the Malakal transit site, said ongoing fighting in Sudan has forced them to live in difficult conditions far from their families and livelihoods. They called on Sudanese leaders to prioritize civilians and end the war. Mariam Tenzir Mohammed told iRadio that life in displacement is unbearable, with many families struggling to access food, healthcare, and education for their children. She said she longs to return home to see her family.
رسالتي للغادة إنه بقول لهم إنه حربكم دي الإنسان الوحيد اللي عانى منها المواطن، يعني لا جيش متضرر ولا دعم سريع متضرر، يعني نحن واحدين من الناس كنا قاعدين في منطقة الحرب. والله نحن وطننا بنحبه والسودان بنتمنى نرجع، لكن في الظروف دي ما بنقدر نرجع ما لم إنه يحصل السلام. لكن لو ما حصل سلام ما بنقدر نرجع نهائيا، لأنه نحن بقينا مستهدفين لأنه يعني الوحدة لو تزوجت سايق يقول لها أنت تزوجتي من كده أو تزوجتي من كده، يعني لو تزوجتي دعام الجيش ما بيرحمك، لو تزوجتي جياشي الدعم السريع ما بيرحمك كده. يعني نحن عايشين في معاناة شديدة، اضطرينا نطلع من بلدنا، عانينا معاناة ما طبيعية، لكن الحمد لله ربنا يصلح الحال وإن شاء الله السلام يجي.
Another refugee, Haladin Mohammed, said they want to return home but cannot because of insecurity, destruction of houses, and lack of basic services.
والحمد لله احنا كويسين، حس في مخيم بتاع ملكال كويسين والله الحمد لله، استقبال تمام، الاخوان ما قصروا والاخوات في المنظمات ما قصروا الحمد لله. اتمنى نسافر بكره ان شاء الله لمنطقه طويل ووضع يكون احسن برضه اللي قدام. والله رسالتي لعم البرهان عم الحميتين انه الكومبيليشن ده والبروبلم ده ينتهي، الناس تعبت والحمد لله لحد هنا كفايه.
Salim Basha, also living at Malakal Transit Center, said life in displacement is unbearable for men, with many struggling to access food and health care. He accused humanitarian organizations of discrimination, saying aid is mainly given to women and children.
أنا قاعد من 2023 تصرفوني صرف واحدة، بتجينا كان الصرفة 21,000 بس، يعني تخيل من 2023 لحد هسه ده 2025. أنا بس بقناعة كده وصلت إنه أنا خلاص أمشي المخيم، لأنه أي شيء بقول لك نحن ما نقدر نقدم لك شيء إلا تمشي المخيم، أنت هسه بتقدر تعمل حاجة إلا المخيم، يعني أنت بتكون قاعد، زول بيجي جديد بيصرف أنت بتكون قاعد تعاين بس بداية، وحتى الخدمات زادوا للنسوان بس، أحيانا بيجي زول واحد، الواحد ده ما بيلقى، ياهو بيحصل السرقة، بيحصل الاعتداءات، ده كله بسبب شو؟ بس انك انت بتعمل كنت منظمه بتعمل تفرزه انك انت بتدي المراه وتدي الطفل، لكن الراجل ما بتدي حقه. يبقى الراجل ياكل من وين يشرب منين؟ هيحصل شنو؟ ياهو المشاكل اللي قاعد يحصل، والمشاكل دي حتواجهنا مش هنا، حتواجهنا لحد المخيم. اما زول بيجي واحد ده في النهايه لا اللاجئ ده لاجئ يا جماعه، كان اسره كان غيره، اللاجئ لاجئ. يبقى الراجل ده ما بيلقى حاجه.
Salim added that he cannot go to nearby forests to cut firewood for a livelihood and faces harassment if he attempts to collect grass. The refugees urged the international community and regional leaders to intensify efforts to support peace talks between the conflicting parties in Sudan. Humanitarian agencies say thousands of Sudanese have fled to South Sudan since fighting broke out in April 2023, with many arriving through Upper Nile State. Finally, before regional and international stories, Bishop Martin Moga of the African Inland Church has called on South Sudanese to embrace reconciliation during the Christmas season to pave way for peace in 2026. Speaking on iRadio's Sundown show yesterday, Bishop Moga said the celebration of Christmas in South Sudan reflects the country's long journey from oppression to liberation and its transformation into a Christian nation after years of struggle. The cleric urged Christians to remain kind to their neighbors and promote unity and reconciliation despite the current economic hardships facing the country. He said South Sudanese need to reconcile with one another as they prepare to welcome the new year in peace.
South Sudanese, they like celebrating Christmas very much because they are seeing that they already totally liberated, they love Christ, they become the Christian nations after being oppressed for several years. Now the time has come for them now to celebrate. Although there's no money, no salary paid for them, you see that every home is serving delicious food, every home is serving hope. Because Christ coming is giving hope to everybody, and they know this is also bringing unity among themselves. They will reconcile. Even your neighbor, if you're not good with your neighbor, this is the day that you need to be good with them. Because Christ come to unite us, to be one people, to fellowship together, and also to show to the world that we are Christian. We are Christian not by mouth, but by action, by saying that we are living one and we are preparing to go to heaven.
This year's festive season has been marked by insecurity in some states, economic hardships, and flooding in several parts of the country. During his Christmas Eve address to the nation, President Kiir also called for peace and unity, urging South Sudanese to remain resilient despite the insecurity and economic crisis affecting the country. This is iRadio News, and now to the regional and international stories. Here is Ellen Samuel.
Taking a look at some of the stories making headlines in the international arena currently, the U.S. has launched strikes against militants linked to the Islamic State group IS in northwestern Nigeria, where jihadists have long carried out an insurgency. Camps run by the group in Sokoto State, which lies on Nigeria's border with Niger, were hit, the U.S. military said, adding that an initial assessment suggested multiple fatalities. U.S. President Donald Trump said the Christmas Day strikes were powerful and deadly and labeled the group terrorist scam, saying it had been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians. Nigerian Foreign Minister Yusuf Maitama Tagar told the BBC it was a joint operation and had nothing to do with a particular religion. Elsewhere, the Al-Shabaab extremist group continues to pose the greatest immediate threat to peace and stability in Somalia and the wider region, including neighboring Kenya, UN experts warned in a report released Wednesday. Despite ongoing military efforts by Somali and international forces to curb its activities, Al-Shabaab's ability to execute complex asymmetric attacks remains undiminished. The group, which is linked to Al-Qaeda, not only carries out deadly attacks but also maintains a sophisticated network of extortion, forced recruitment, and effective propaganda. The report highlighted an attempted assassination of Somalia's president on March 18th in Mogadishu, underscoring the persistent danger posed by the group in the capital. Finally, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has given a positive assessment of a conversation he had with the U.S. envoys on how to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Zelensky said Thursday's call with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, which lasted nearly an hour, had yielded new ideas in terms of formats, meetings, and timing on how to bring a real peace closer. He spoke a day after giving details of an updated 20-point peace plan agreed by U.S. and Ukrainian envoys in Florida. Those are some of the stories making headlines in the region and beyond the borders. Back to you, Wol Mapal.
Thank you, Helen Samuel, and to the Wall of Sports. We are joined live by Darlington Moses.
Thank you so much, Wol Mapal. In the world of sport, we are starting with some key updates in the AFCON happening live in Morocco. Egypt head coach Hassan has described the upcoming match against South Africa as very important. The game is in the second round of Group B at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Speaking ahead of the match, Hassan said all games matter. He added that South Africa is a strong team, saying Egypt will play to win and secure the 3 points. Hassan also said the team feels comfortable in Morocco. Morocco head coach Walid Regragui has dismissed reports that defender Nayef Aguerd is injured. He said the player is training normally. He also gave updates on other players. Regragui added that Akraf Hakimi is fit and being prepared for the match. Morocco will face Mali on Friday. The match will be played at Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium in Rabat. And also Mali head coach Tom Saintfiet said Morocco are favorites to win the tournament. According to him, he said his players want to collect as many points as possible. He added that the team wants to stay longer in the competition. Saintfiet also said he is unhappy with the decisions to change the AFCON schedule. And today, some key fixtures showed Egypt will be playing South Africa. Zimbabwe will face Angola. Both teams lost to their opening matches, and Zambia will take on Comoros in Group A. Nigeria coach Eric Chelle said the match against Tunisia will be very important. He described it as a long and a big clash between two experienced teams. Chelle said Nigeria must give their best to win. Nigeria will play Tunisia on Saturday. And finally, in NBA, Nikola Jokic recorded a 56-point triple-double and broke a record set by Steve Curry as the Denver Nuggets beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 142-138 on Christmas Day. The Serve hit 56 points, recorded 16 rebounds and 15 assists, becoming the first player in NBA history to hit at least 55 points, 15 rebounds, and 15 assists in the triple-double. Three-time MVP Jokic hit 18 of his 56 points in overtime, breaking Curry's record of 17 overtime points from 2016. This is all in the world of sport, and back to you, Wol Mapal.
Thanks, Darlington Moses, for the sport update. You are listening to our radio news, and to end this bulletin, here is a quick recap once again. Police in Juba have arrested more than 100 suspects, including 16 members of the organized forces, during the Christmas period for alleged disorderly conduct aimed at disrupting public celebrations. The Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Juba, Cardinal Stephen Emeyo Martin Muller, has called on South Sudanese to pray for peace in 2026 and to break the cycle of violence that gripped the country in 2025. And the United States Ambassador to South Sudan, Michael J. Hadler, has called on South Sudanese to make 2026 a year of peace, dialogue, and reconciliation. That is the end of iRadio News. If there is a story on our event you would like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message on +211 925 287 870. It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba, Like our Facebook page, iRadio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for news in Arabic at 1/2 past the hour. I am Wol Mapal, wishing you a happy Merry Christmas and